The night was bitterly cold, the kind that makes the air feel heavy and sharp in your lungs. The streets were deserted, and rain drizzled down in a slow, unforgiving rhythm, soaking everything it touched. Aaliya, a 17-year-old girl with tangled hair, torn clothes, and bare feet, walked slowly along the edge of a wealthy neighborhood. Her thin body shivered violently as she wrapped her arms tightly around herself, trying desperately to hold in whatever warmth she had left. Life had dealt her nothing but cruelty since the day she lost her parents in a tragic accident 2 years ago. She had no family, no shelter, and no one to call her own. She had been surviving on scraps, sleeping wherever she could find cover, under bus stops, in abandoned shops, sometimes even out in the open beneath the stars while hunger twisted inside her like a knife. But tonight was worse than all the others. The rain was unrelenting, the cold unbearable, and for the first time, she felt her body giving up. She wandered aimlessly until her eyes fell upon a grand mansion standing tall at the end of the street. Its high walls, golden lights, and flawless gardens made it look like something from another world. It was the kind of home she had only seen in magazines that rich people threw away, the kind of home she could never even dream of. But what caught her attention was not the mansion itself, it was the large wooden doghouse just outside near the gates. The doghouse was enormous, almost the size of a small room, polished and clean, with a heater lamp glowing faintly inside. 2 shiny bowls, one with water and one with food, stood neatly outside of it. For a moment, she stood frozen, staring at it with tears filling her eyes. Even the dog of this house, she thought bitterly, lived with more comfort and care than she had ever known. Her lips trembled as she whispered to herself, "If I could just stay in there tonight, maybe I won't freeze to death." Desperation gave her the courage she didn't know she had. She walked toward the huge iron gate and, with trembling fingers, knocked on it. Her heart pounded in her chest, uncertain of what kind of response she would get. A few moments later, the gate opened, and standing there was a tall man in his late 30s, dressed in a crisp black suit. His eyes were sharp, his expression cold, his posture straight and commanding. This was Armin Malik, the millionaire everyone in the city knew about, a man both admired and feared for his ruthless business decisions, his immense wealth, and his reputation for having a heart of stone. Aaliya's voice cracked as she looked up at him and spoke, "Sir, please, I am not asking to come inside your house. I only want to sleep in your doghouse tonight. I swear I won't touch anything. I just need a place to stay until morning." Her words hung in the air, raw and desperate. The rain dripped from her hair, her clothes clung to her fragile frame, and her eyes begged him in a way words never could. Armin raised an eyebrow, his expression unreadable. After a pause, he finally spoke in a calm but sharp tone, "Do you realize what you are asking? That doghouse is worth more than your life. And you are asking to sleep in it." The words cut through her like glass, but she didn't back away. She clasped her hands together and said through her tears, "Yes, sir. I know I am nothing. But I have nowhere else to go. If I stay outside, I will not survive the night. Please, just let me stay there. Just this once." The guards nearby looked at each other in shock. No one had ever seen a girl begging like this, not for money, not for food, but simply to be allowed to stay in a doghouse. Armin stared at her for a long time, and for a moment, it seemed he was about to walk away and leave her to her fate. But something flickered in his memory. Long ago, before he became the man everyone knew today, Armin himself had been a boy with nothing. He had lived in a crumbling hut with his widowed mother, gone hungry for days, and felt the sting of rejection from people richer than him. The desperation in Aaliya's eyes reminded him of the child he once was. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he said firmly, "No. You will not sleep in the doghouse." Aaliya's knees went weak, and her heart sank in despair. She thought he was sending her away. She was about to collapse when he added, his tone now softer, "You will sleep inside my mansion. Come in." Everyone froze. The guards exchanged stunned looks, unable to believe what they had just heard. Aaliya herself stood speechless, unsure if she had heard him correctly. Inside, she whispered, her voice shaking. "But why?" "I don't deserve," he cut her off, his voice steady, "no human being deserves to be treated worse than an animal. Come with me." That night marked the beginning of a new chapter in Aaliya's life. Inside the mansion, she was given clean clothes, a warm blanket, and food she could hardly believe was real, fresh soup, bread, and rice with vegetables. She ate slowly at first, then hungrily, with tears streaming down her cheeks. For the first time in years, she slept peacefully, her body warm, her stomach full, her heart overwhelmed by the miracle of kindness she had never expected. But life was not suddenly easy. In the days that followed, Armin's family, friends, and business associates criticized him for his decision. "Why keep a street girl in your home?" they mocked. "She will bring shame to your name. She will steal from you. She will never be anything but a beggar." Even his closest advisors told him to send her away. But Armin stood firm. He saw something in her that others did not. He saw potential, resilience, and a fire to rise above her circumstances. He enrolled her in school, hired a tutor, and encouraged her to learn and grow. Slowly, Aaliya began to blossom. She was intelligent, hardworking, and determined to prove to everyone that she was not just a poor girl taken in by pity. Still, the world outside remained cruel. People whispered behind her back, calling her a beggar girl living off a millionaire's charity. Sometimes, Aaliya would break down and cry, wondering if she really belonged anywhere. But whenever she doubted herself, Armin reminded her, "You asked me for a doghouse, Aaliya. I gave you a home. Now prove to the world that you deserved it." Those words became her strength. Years passed. Aaliya studied with dedication, excelling in her exams. She earned a scholarship abroad, becoming the first in her family to ever attend university. When she returned years later, she was no longer the fragile girl who had once begged for shelter. She was a confident young woman, graceful, wise, and full of dreams. With Armin's mentorship, she started her own foundation to help homeless children, determined to give others the chances she once prayed for. At the grand inauguration of her foundation, the hall was filled with city leaders, journalists, and people who had once looked down on her. Cameras flashed as she stood at the podium, her heart beating with pride and gratitude. She looked out into the crowd and found the face she was searching for, Armin Malik, sitting quietly in the front row, his stern eyes softened with pride. Taking a deep breath, Aaliya spoke into the microphone. "Years ago, I begged a man to let me sleep in his doghouse. But instead of treating me like an animal, he treated me like a human being. That moment changed the course of my life. To the world, he is a millionaire. But to me, he is the reason I am standing here today. And if you remember anything from my story, let it be this: sometimes, the smallest act of kindness can create the biggest miracles." The hall erupted in applause. People who had once mocked her now stood in awe. Armin, usually so composed, felt a tear slip down his cheek. For the first time in many years, he allowed himself to feel the full weight of his compassion, proud of the choice he had made that rainy night. And that, dear friends, is how one small act of kindness changed a life forever. Aaliya's story reminds us that compassion costs nothing, but it can create miracles greater than we can ever imagine. Tell me, what do you think of Armin's decision that night? Would you have done the same in his place? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear your hearts. And if this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Be Kind Always, so together we can keep spreading stories of kindness, hope, and inspiration.